The Port Podcast with Craig Bell Esterbrooks.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Port Podcast. We have a very special guest here today, April Logue of Riptide. And I just want to start by saying I think Riptide and what April has done is the personification of a success story and a business looking at the growth opportunities and what's happened at the port and some of the infrastructure investments the government and big private partners have put in place, taking a little piece of that and creating a wonderful company and creating jobs in our backyard. So full disclaimer, I'm a huge fan of April and Riptide and what they've done. And I would love to see 100 of these in my lifetime pop up companies like you're about to describe today. So April, welcome to the Port Podcast.
All right. Thanks, Craig. And thanks for having me here today. Well, that was a nice, warm introduction. We're just thrilled to be here. And we're really proud of what we're doing over there and glad that we can share it with everybody.
I think our listeners are going to love to hear about what your company does and the journey that you've been on and the leadership that you provide. So let's dive into it. What is Riptide?
So for anybody that doesn't know us, we have three main operations. We operate out of the Lorneville Industrial Park, which is 8 kilometers from here. If you're not a St. Johner, that's like minutes away, not very far. And so we have our first operation is a Canada Customs bonded warehouse where we do long, short-term storage. We do stuffing and destuffing of containers. We have a site spot for CBSA inspections. And my favorite, and what I think we do really well, is transloading. So that's our first operation. And then we have the offsite container depot, where we store the empty containers, reefers, and dry boxes for the lines that ship through Port of St. John. We do servicing, maintenance, washing of those containers, inventory control, and get them ready to ship out to the various carriers. And then after that, we do truck transportation ourselves. So we're a bonded carrier, and that really works to kind of support the other things that we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, everything you've just described is so essential. The transload, you said it first, excites you a lot. That excites us tremendously. We believe that is tremendous value add that you provide for the port community. How did you get into this business?
So for me, it kind of, it obviously was not my plan. If anybody knows my personal story, but, I was in education for many, many years. My husband was in transportation. And so he was working alongside of some of the folks over at, the Port of St. John and DP World with another company. He and a good friend of himself, Mike Wyman, knew, hey, wait a minute, we think the Port of St. John has some stuff coming up that we can help with. And that's always kind of been like their mission, was to kind of add value to what's been happening at the port. So they started Riptide 4 years ago. And, they were off to a great running start. Everything was going really, really well. Unfortunately, Ronnie passed away in 2024. And then at that time, I decided, hey, am I going to become part of the business more so and kind of become an active part of that, or, and kind of switch away from education. So it was a little bit of a hard sell at first. It was kind of like, which way do I go? But once I started, I knew that this was kind of the right path for me. And yeah, so
had you been in the business at all before 2024? I mean, you've obviously heard a lot about it at home and
yeah, I would say I heard a lot about it at home. A lot of evening conversations and such like that. But no, I worked full time at the school. So my logistics background was just kind of what I learned from him. Yeah.
So what led you to make that in such a difficult time for you and your family? What led you to make that massive career change and want to keep this early success going with Riptide?
So for me, I think it was because education has been all I've known, and I loved, I love doing what I do. But when I came over to logistics, it's a different industry where people work together and they really come together and pump each other up. And when I started, if I didn't know something, it was like I would come in the room and I would be Googling things and trying to learn, and everybody just surrounded me and said, hey, I'm gonna help you with this. Mm-hmm. And it didn't take long before I had a huge network of people. Mm-hmm. And some people are my competitors. I actually went to one of my competitors' locations out of province, and they said, hey, come on, I'm gonna show you some things. And they said, we made some big mistakes. We don't want to see you make these mistakes. Here's some ideas. And I was kind of like, wow, this is crazy how people come together from all these different places, and they they work together to build something great. And that's what I see here happening in St. John.
So and we're going to get into your business in great detail, but any advice for people that are looking at a career change and looking to do something totally different? I mean, obviously this was something that came on you very fast based on a tragic circumstance, but if someone's looking at making a huge life change, do you have any advice for them for what you've gone through in the last 2 years?
You could ask any of my friends this, and they would say that I say do it. 100% change equals growth. Change is good. Believe in yourself, and change is a good thing. So I think that my advice to anybody would be to just go with it and trust yourself, because you know what's right for yourself. And if you follow it, then you'll know it'll work out.
Wow. So you touched on something that I think is at the heart of the port, and it's relationships and relationship building and trust amongst partners. How have you gone about building those relationships and trust with the container lines specifically? Because the way, full disclosure, the way the container lines talk about you guys is extremely favorable. You definitely add a lot of value to our port. How have you done that, not really knowing the container lines before you started?
Right. So for me, I think a big thing was learning. Because of my background in education, of course, the first thing I did was take every course that I possibly could. Okay. So I did learn all of the things that I could possibly learn as quickly as I could. And then I thought it was really important to meet people in person. So spend a lot of time actually driving to the locations, flying to the locations, and having those one-on-one meetings, and just getting to know people, building the relationships, letting them know that we're here. And a big part of what we've always done is being that personal connection. If you call Riptide and you want to talk to April or Mike or whomever, you're going to talk to April or Mike or whomever it is that, and we follow up with that, and we want that to be kind of one of our big values. So,
kind of post-pandemic, I remember, and you would have felt this in the educational field tremendously. Everything went online. Mm-hmm. And Teams has been a very useful tool for business and for education. But nothing really substitutes in person. No. And you mentioned that, and I'm a firm believer of that. Yeah. Why is that such a core value to you, the in-person piece of relationship building?
I think once you meet people and you get to know them and you get to establish that relationship, you build a trust that you can't build through a screen. So once you have that, then you know that you can rely on somebody, and you know that they have all their good intentions, and that they really will do what they can to be dependable and provide you what you need. It's not about, when we talk about value, a lot of times everybody obviously just automatically goes to numbers and, what kind of monetary value can you bring? And when you meet people in person, it takes that away. You're not talking about monetary value anymore. You're talking about people and time and all the things that are important to all of us.
Yeah, that's so well said. So when the company was founded, you said 4 years ago, how many employees were there in the very beginning compared to now?
There would have been 4 probably full-time employees. I'm trying to think. I don't know. Yeah. I would go with 4. Yeah. Because we had a couple operators, and then we had Mike and Ronnie would have been working full time there. So, and yeah.
And today?
So today we have 12 or 11, 12. Yeah. So yes.
I mean, that's
a good team building.
That again, I can't express enough. That is exactly what we're trying to build. What you guys are doing is exactly what we talk about with infrastructure investment. So we go on and on at the port about $247 million modernization. That got us into the container game. But it's the partners that have come along. DP World is the operator. CPKC reestablishes services into St. John. But I think the future is really in more companies like yours finding their niche, whether it's warehousing space, whether it's transload, as you mentioned. Maybe it's a new manufacturing company that doesn't exist today, that looks at what you offer and what the container lines and the connectivity that we have to Europe as part of the trade diversification that gets talked about. Maybe there's a brand new company that sets up. What is your, if an entrepreneur was coming to you and saying, we'd like to do what you did, we'd like to set up in the port, do something with the port, maybe it's manufacture, maybe it's repackaging something, we want to start up. How do we go about doing this? What would be your advice?
I I would say my advice would be to work with the people that are already are kind of established. So I know with us, we kind of reached out to say, okay, what's the need? And how can we provide value to that need? If other people are providing value to that need, well, then that's not something that we need to do. So we're going to look and see where we can fit into this, and do what you do and do it well.
Yeah, I think that's good advice across the board. So what does the future look like for Riptide? Where do you want to go in the next 5 to 10 years with your company?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? I would say that, just growth is improving, right? So we just want to improve on what we are already doing, get back down to our basics, make sure that we have good standard operating procedures, make sure that we have good efficiency plans, make sure that we have all of those good backbones that we need to, so that we can continue to grow and continue to do what we do. Yeah,
it's so similar to what we were talking about as a port authority as well, because you've got the commercial opportunities in front of you. Mm-hmm. You have teams that build that, but I think you touched on something that's really important. It's growth needs to be harnessed and turned into an efficient operating model that customers are happy with. Mm-hmm. So how do you balance your day, or week or month, thinking about commercial opportunities, mm-hmm. growth, top line revenue generation, but then switch gears and make sure that the operating model that you're creating is still driving the value for customers?
I don't think I'm alone when I say anybody that's a true entrepreneur just doesn't sleep.
Right. Yeah.
So you never really switch from one to the other. You're always, you're always kind of like trying to balance what the need is in the moment. Yeah. And, sometimes the moment is a need for operations and sometimes the moment is not. So I think that one's a hard one to answer, because I think that we're just all over the place and doing what we can. But I do think that it's important, just to communication and between the whole team is important. And if you have a good team and you build a good team, then it'll follow suit.
What's the side of the business, the operations, commercial? What do you gravitate more to personally?
I personally love meeting with the customers. Really enjoy that.
Well, you're great at it.
Yeah, I really, really enjoy that. Anybody that knows me actually does think that I get a little bit of a pretty big, not a little bit, a pretty big excitement off of some new revenues or different things. Like if we get an opportunity to try something new, I get pretty excited to bring it back to the team. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about educational opportunities and going mm-hmm. into this new role, taking a big leap as you did. I know CITT, mm-hmm. the Canadian Institute, is something we as the Port Authority have embraced through a lot of our team members have pursued that designation. I think you mentioned mm-hmm. earlier that you're not only pursuing it, but it's coming to a conclusion at some point. Yes. What has CITT been like? And as a former educator, what is it like being on the other side of the educational path right now?
Yeah, it's actually been a lot of fun. I was just finishing up one of my last courses, so I'll be graduating in June, and I was actually looking at a course and being like, oh, I get this. This is really relevant right now. And I remember going back a couple times and like flipping back through the pages and being like, oh, wait a minute. And being able to apply that in real person in real time right now it's been kind of, it's been fun, because sometimes when you're at school or when you're learning, it's not that application to real life stuff. Whereas when I'm doing these things, it's kind of neat that you're like, hey, that's really relevant to what we're doing right now.
Yeah. I know my colleagues too, and I'm sure you feel the same way, view CITT as one part educational mm-hmm. and then a great opportunity to build your network mm-hmm. And find business opportunities, because they're like-minded people that are in the program.
Yeah. And they offer some great events and things, so that, some opportunities to go and network for sure.
I think New Brunswick's even hosting an event in Moncton.
Yeah. And then next year, the next June big one will be in St. John as well.
Oh, that's right. Yes. I forgot about that.
In 2027.
Well, I hope you're front and center and a full graduate by next summer.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Riptide will make sure that they're a part of that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, April, your journey has been inspirational. You play a huge role in the port. We thank you for coming on. I just have one last question for you. What are your hopes for the Port of St. John in the next little while? What would you love to see happen here, and where do you want to see the growth at the port that will help enable your business success?
I think if the port continues to do exactly what you guys are doing, I see nothing but great improvements coming. So, when you talk to Susan Holt about the interprovincial, when you guys met with Doug Ford, that was exciting to think, hey, we're going to keep this in Canada and we're going to build and we're going to bring things to St. John, and the awareness of what St. John can do, the awareness into Europe and the things that you guys are doing is just incredible. And I think the more of that, it'll be a great success.
I agree. We believe it on our team, but I can't stress enough. It's the job creation that matters. That's why we put the infrastructure in place. I know we play an important role for Canada's supply chain, but I want to see people in St. John work in the port industry and the port adjacent industry. And what you've done creating those 12 jobs, I think is inspirational. I think it's exactly what we need to be doing a lot more of. And if we're going to look back on this in 20 years' time, it's going to be companies like yours that are going to make this dream really pop.
We appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. And I hope there's listeners that are discovering your company today for the first time and reach out, call April. She's the most approachable, wonderful, nice person you're going to meet. Maritime hospitality personified.
And I love it. I tell everybody, come visit us. Let me show you around and show us what you do. So if you don't know if we can do it, call me and I'll let you know if we can do it.
You heard it best right from the source. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Craig.